There's a saying that the point of life is to plant trees under whose shade you'll never sit yourself. And planting trees is just an investment in the future and future generations. Other generations are responsible for my being here today. I need to be good ancestors for future generations. That means planting trees.
Silvopasture, the way I would define it, is basically just focusing on growing trees on the same land that you're also grazing animals. So it's basically just the combination of agroforestry and a livestock operation.
For me, silvopasture is about integrating trees into pasture lands. Our goal is to return our pastures to the savannas that they were for eons. And that's a really productive form of pasture and grazing for animals.
So a lot of people wonder what silvopasture is. Oftentimes we see people, well, I've got some cows in the woods, or I've got some cows under a tree. That's not what we would define as silvopasture. We think of silvopasture as the intentional integration of livestock production and tree production on the same unit of land. And the point there is to try to have, or to create conditions that are more desirable for our livestock.
Our most immediate interest in trees is for shade, and there's two parts of that. So there's drought tolerance, so that your pastures are still productive even during drought, but also heat resistance for the animals, because not only can you lose animals if they get too hot, or you have to cull if you don't have enough forage to feed them, but also when animals are hotter and they're working harder to keep cool, they don't metabolize as well, they don't put on weight as well. Secondary benefits are additional forage for the animals in the form of both the foliage of the trees, but also the fodder from the trees.
Many producers are primarily interested in silvopasture for shade, but we also have the opportunity, if we manage the system right, for medium-term productivity from fodder or from fruit or nuts, that sort of thing. And for long-term productivity in the form of timber production. And then we've also got the potential for absorbing carbon and storing that, whether that's standing in the bowl or in the root system, or through leaf litter, we're creating more soil organic matter, that sort of thing. So there are a number of potential benefits from production to ecosystem.
At Luke Skillet Farm, we've been thinking about silvopasture for many years. We stopped making hay about 5 to 10 years ago, and we've been slowly experimenting with silvopasture, and we knew it was something that we wanted to take on. But looking at the cost, there was some kind of obstacles, both social obstacles and then financial obstacles to begin with. And looking at the carbon credits option, that was a way to kind of offset some of those financial obstacles and help us move towards implementation.
My name is John.
My name is Akash.
And together we founded Working Trees. Our mission is to grow trees where the interests of farmers and the climate overlap. And we do that by enabling farmers to tap into carbon credits for productive trees that they incorporate into their agricultural system. Now I imagine most of you have heard of a company that has set a net zero or carbon neutrality goal. This means they've set a date by which they plan to get to effectively zero greenhouse gas emissions. They do this first by becoming more efficient and reducing their own emissions, but for pretty much every company there's some amount left over. At that point, they will pay others to pull greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere for them. That's all a carbon market is. Over the past couple of years, these carbon markets have exploded, with both quantities and dollar per credits increasing dramatically.
Given that producers are walking their lands anyway, almost daily, we saw an unrealized opportunity to equip them with the tools that they need to efficiently and accurately measure the amount of carbon stored on their lands. And so by measuring these properties themselves, it eliminates the need for the manual verification crews to travel often great distances, and these cost savings can go back into the pockets of farmers.
The big question is, what does this look like in terms of the bottom line for a producer? And at Working Trees, when we combine the technology with the financing enabled by guaranteed offtake, when you couple carbon with other sources of funding, we can get to $0 down for installations of silvopasture systems. Now, in terms of costs, it may run anywhere from $500 to $1,500 per acre to establish a silvopasture system. Depending on the state, you can get incentives from the United States Department of Agriculture, which can run from a couple $100s to, in some cases, multiple thousands. At the same time, you can layer on top carbon, which, if you opt in for a prepayment for the carbon you will store, can reach up to $500 per acre.
Let me bring it together now. First, it is possible to establish silvopasture at $0 down. Second, once these systems are set up, they drive meaningful production benefits. And third, the entire time, silvopasture builds a legacy for future generations. Please go to our website at workingtrees.com to submit your information to receive a custom land analysis to see if Working Trees is a fit for you. We hope you'll join us in our mission to grow trees where the interests of farmers and the climate overlap.